All right. Well, thanks very much for having me tonight. I'm looking forward to taking you through a little bit of this presentation. And before we get started, Alex mentioned a couple of different things about Q4, and to give you a little bit more context of myself, the first thing I'll tell you is about my background. So I went to school here at York University for computer science and business, did that in the mid-90s, and I started my first company while I was going to school there. I sold that company in the late 90s, stayed on to run it for a couple years through the dot-com burst, and then started a second company. And that second company didn't work as well as the first one. It really was a lesson in having alignment with your partners. But out of that second company, I really learned about this new market, which gave me the insight in terms of creating and starting Q4. And what Q4 is that we are a SaaS platform for investor relations for public companies. The business is almost entirely US-based. We have about 30% of the S&P 500, about 30% of the Fortune 500. And we are about 530 clients or so. That represents about 3,000 users, about 6 million or so investors use our platform on a monthly basis, growing at triple digits. And we're just about to cross over the magical 10 million ARR. So for all of you that are running SaaS businesses that read all the SaaS blogs, you know how important the 10 million mark is. And so we're just about to cross over. Hopefully that's going to happen. Hopefully I don't jinx it with today's talk. But we've raised about $8.5 million to date. We closed our first Series A, so most of that money, or not most of it, but a chunk of it was all raised in the early days. And $8.5 million raised to date, and we're just embarking on our Series B. So hopefully the Series B works. We've got about 120 employees or so, and with the Series B, we're hoping to hire about another 120 or so, but hopefully we've got to raise the Series B first. And then in terms of hiring, because I'm wearing my red little name tag, is we're currently looking to hire developers. So front end, back end. If you're interested, we've got our stuff out on social media. So what I wanted to talk about today, and it's a little bit less very specific and a little bit more high level, is to impart kind of one piece of advice. And to give you a little idea of where it comes from, this really comes from my father. So my dad told me lots of things growing up, as fathers do with everyone. Everyone's dad tells them things. And this one thing really stuck in my head as I was growing up. My dad came from very poor beginnings, one child of 15 siblings. And he worked his way up, became a very successful executive, and he really spent a lot of time telling me these things. And I could do a whole presentation on what would Fred say, or what would Fred do. Fred's his name. But I want to focus on the one thing that really stuck with me and became really part of a core tenet in terms of who I am, in terms of running a company and building companies, but also just life in general. And it's don't believe your own bullshit. So what I mean when I say don't believe your own bullshit is that we tend to tell ourselves a huge amount of lies in life, in life and in business. So when we're starting a company, we tell ourselves how great our idea is, how amazing that pitch went, how those investors loved us, how we're going to build this company quick and we're going to sell it, get rich. We also tell our things when there's problems. We tell ourselves, well, Bob and Jim over there, that employee problem, interpersonal problem, that's going to sort itself out. I'm not going to have to deal with that. And we tell ourselves this on an ongoing basis, and what's really important is to separate the bullshit from reality. Because bullshit wastes time. And time is the only resource that you can't raise any more time. You can raise more money, you can hire more people, you can do all these things, but time is the only finite resource that you have when you're building a company. So the important thing is, when you have these issues, is not to think about whether things are good or bad, and spend time dreaming or convincing yourself how great something is. 60 seconds, wow, that 5 minutes went quick. But it's very much to focus on execution. And that means identifying the problems and getting things done. And so when you look at your company, if you're there and you think that I don't have any problems, well, it's either one of two things. Either you really don't have any problems. It's either one of two things. The first one is either you really are feeding yourself a lot of bullshit because you have problems. And the second, if you don't have problems and you're on easy street and your company is cruising, then you're simply not pushing hard enough. So that was the one thing, so I'll end with that. I've got a bunch of other slides, but obviously I went way over. So I will just flip through those very quickly. And thanks very much.